Today we've got another installment of the best budget everyday carry on Amazon. I've done a couple of these in the past. They're always so much fun. The budget for today's episode was $200. As usual, after the load, I'm going to go over some substitutions if you want to save some money on any of this, or if you want to upgrade any individual pieces. But without any further ado, let's dive straight into it with the wallet. The wallet I ended up with was the Carhartt front pocket wallet. Finding this wallet was what I based the rest of the EDC on. Thought this was a really interesting find, especially at this price point. Carhartt's always been known for, pretty burly, good quality stuff. It's made out of a 500D Cordura duck nylon. Definitely has that beefy feel and of course look to it with the Carhartt brown. And what really struck me with this one, for being a more minimalist, non-folding wallet, this thing actually has 9 different slots in it, whether it's for cards or cash. You have 3 here, 3 on the other side, the center slot, of course, and then 2 others around the center slot. So it's a pretty crazy layout for a non-folding wallet. Usually you only get 3 or 4 slots maybe for wallets like this. So I thought this was an interesting find and pickup for the right person if you have to carry a few extra cards around and still want this style but haven't really been able to find anything. The fabric is also DWR coated, which is a really nice addition. It's an RFID blocking wallet as well. And then just on the off chance you want to put it on a keychain or something, you have this D-ring attachment here, which I found really interesting, and I don't think I've seen that on any other wallets. But overall, for $30, really good construction, really solid materials. The stitching looks great. This holds a little bit more than I personally need and carry on a regular basis, but I think this would be a really great fit for a lot of people. I'd love to see an even more slimmed down version of this with fewer slots so it can maintain that thinness. But if you're looking to narrow down that big folding dad wallet, this would be a really good option. Next up for keys, we've got the Jibbin key organizer. If any of you watched my winter EDC update, I raved about this thing pretty extensively. I've been carrying one for a few months now and absolutely love it. So I wouldn't even necessarily call this a budget choice. I've been testing different key organizers for a couple of years trying to find the best one, and this is definitely the king right now out of all of the options I've tried. It fit into the budget though, which is great. With these price limitations, I always try and focus on fewer items that are higher quality, because buying a bunch of junk that you're gonna have to replace soon is never a great way to go. It's really similar in design to the Orbit key organizers, which I think are a little bit more popular, but these have a few other improvements that I really like. First off, it's a completely toolless design, so you don't need to use a screwdriver or anything to be able to access or get into the key organizer. It pops on and off. It's really convenient and nice to use. I haven't found any issues with it loosening even from day one. I really like the leather quality here as well. It's an Italian leather. They have a few different color options. This one is the tan here. You saw in my winter update the black one. You have a D-ring on here if you want to attach a key fob. It holds 3 to 9 keys. Comes in at $43, which is a little expensive, but the quality is absolutely there. I've got some lesser expensive ones I'm going to go over at the end of the video like usual, but yeah, I really can't speak highly enough of this, and I was so happy that it fit into the $200 budget. Next up for a pocket knife, we've got a real classic that I finally got my hands on. This is the Opinel number 8. Right off the bat when I got this, I was really impressed with the quality, especially for the $20 price point. It's an XC90 steel blade that was really sharp and almost perfect out of the box. I was actually pretty surprised. When you get into these budget knives, sometimes you're gonna have to sharpen them yourself or they're just not going to be very sharp. I got the beechwood handle, which is kind of the standard classic one. This thing is really lightweight as well. I think it's right about 45 grams, so that's a plus or minus depending on your preference. I can appreciate some heft in a pocket knife, but sometimes lightweight is the best way to go. If you do a lot of backpacking and you're super weight conscious with what you're carrying, this is a really great option to save some weight and not really compromise in the quality. It's a 3.25 inch blade and 7.5 inches in length unfolded. The only downsides really here is that you don't have any sort of way to flick it open, which is unfortunate. And then the grooves here are definitely designed for a right-handed person. If you're left-handed like me, you also don't have any pocket clip. But if you don't care about the pocket clip, if you don't care about, fidgeting with it to flick it open, really great quality for $20. And I've definitely seen worse at a lot higher price points before. Just really solid and definitely a long time classic. I was happy to try out and get my hands on here. For a flashlight, I decided to go with the Olight i3T. This has been a long-standing budget favorite for me since I've been venturing in and trying different flashlights. It runs on a single AAA battery, it goes up to 180 lumens, and on the lower setting, which I think is 5 lumens, it gets up to 16 hours of runtime. But for me, I really just enjoy the simplicity and form factor of this flashlight. Just really simple to operate and really great feel in the hand for this size. The tail switch feels great. I know last time I mentioned this one, a few people said there were better options at that $20 price point, but I'm just really fond of this one. Just clicks for me and works in how I like to use flashlights when I do. This is the desert tan color as well, which is this nice like copper type of color. I think it looks great, operates great, simple, dependable, all in all, really solid for $20. You all know me at this point. I don't think you can have a proper EDC without a good watch. This is the Timex Expedition Scout 40 field watch. I picked this up in the fall of last year. I did a whole video with EDC watches under $50. Check that one out if you never did. I had my eye on it for a couple of years before I got it, and I was really impressed with the quality. I wore a Weekender for several years and was really happy with it, and this, in my eyes, just kind of like an improved Weekender. It's a 40mm case made of brass with a titanium finish. I got the nylon green strap and the gray watch face and kind of gunmetal gray finish on here. There are a ton of different colorways and options though. You have a date complication on here, which is really nice. You also have the Timex Indiglo, which, you know, some good nostalgia there with the Indiglo, but also obviously functional, water resistant up to 50 meters, just kind of that classic field watch styling. Next up, we've got a budget sling bag, something I've been venturing into a little bit here and there to find some lower priced options to some of the higher end ones that I usually use and review and try. This is the TomTok Compact EDC Sling. It's a 4.5 liter sling that I have some almost indescribable mixed feelings about, but we'll go over the good first. You have YKK zips, you have a Duraflex buckle on here, so most of the hardware is going to be really solid. The fabric on here is a 1260D nylon, so it's pretty thick and burly, especially for a sling at $44. It has a nice 3D shape to it, so it's going to be able to hold a lot. Sometimes I'll be running errands and have to put something in here instead of bringing a full backpack. Stuff like that makes a big difference for me that spends most of my time on foot. The organization is simple but pretty solid. So all in all, spec-wise, I think this is a pretty solid choice, and especially at $44, I think this is a good way to go if that is your budget limit. On the flip side of that though, a few things that I'm not too fond of. Main one being this logo here. This is hideous, and I think it completely ruins the design and aesthetics of the bag. So TomTok, work on your logo. Maybe you get a symbol to put on there or something. I know you want to advertise on the outside of your bag, but it looks ugly and it really ruins it. The other thing, the kind of indescribable thing, is it just has that sort of cheap, you know, mass appeal type of feel and vibe to it. It's really tough to put into words, but after testing a lot of different slings over several years here on the YouTube channel, you know, it definitely just has that mass-produced, cheap sort of feel. I guess, you know, you kind of get what you get at these lower price points, but that is something I wanted to make sure and mention. You know, this doesn't compete with the sling bags that are in like $100 price range that I more commonly review on the channel. But if you're on a tight budget, I think it is a decent choice for sure. Before we get into some of the alternatives and substitutions, I'm going to interrupt myself really quick and thank the sponsor of today's video, Vetted. If you're not already familiar, Vetted is a free browser extension that compares products as well as their reviews and prices to make sure that you're getting the best value for money and you're not wasting any more time or money that you need to when deciding on a purchase. I've had it installed on my computer for a few months now, and it's been even more useful than I had originally anticipated. Giving a good example here, shopping for a blender. This is not a category I'm very familiar or experienced with, so if you search, it shows that the best overall option is the Vitamix A2500. On top of the picks that you see on the top of the page, you can see a few other options as well as an aggregate of reviews from really reputable sources like RTings, Tech Gear Lab, Tom's Guide, Good Housekeeping. It also has a built-in Amazon price tracker, which might be my favorite feature. You can see it's currently at $458, which is a lower price than it's currently being sold at Best Buy, and also a low price for Amazon compared to the usual $500 or $550 if you look at a couple of months ago. It's been really convenient. It works directly through Amazon and Google, visual, so you don't need to pull up a bunch of different tabs for price trackers, reviews, all of this other stuff. It aggregates all of that all into one just to make everything as simple and as easy as possible. So check it out, save yourself some time and money before the next time you need to go shopping for something. I've got a link in the description below. It's completely free to try, so no risk in checking it out. Huge thanks again to Vetted for sponsoring this week's video and for making such a solid browser extension. So the $200 budget for this was definitely pliable. The best EDC is going to be different from every person to person because everyone has different needs, especially in this specific case. Things like the Sling bag are going to knock a big chunk of money out of this. I know not everyone loves the Sling bag. Some people think it's too feminine. In my opinion, if you have to worry about looking masculine all the time, you should probably look more inward than outward, but that's a whole separate conversation. Getting into some of the key organizer alternatives though, because I know the Jibbin is $43 and definitely at the top end of the range, even though it fit into the budget. A couple of lower priced alternatives. I've talked about this one a few times before. This is the Orbit Key Active. Really similar design to the Jibbin, doesn't have quite the same feature set like the stuff I talked about earlier, but a really solid choice and very similar at $25 compared to $43. I think this thing is really impressive at this price point and definitely beats out most of the main like Key Smarts and things that are in that $15 to $20 range. Well worth a few extra dollars for something like this. Another alternative, if you want to go even simpler and save even more money, for like $11 or $12, I think, the Key Smart Mini, which is essentially just like a fancy key ring. It's just meant to go around the base of your keys and that is it. There's no real cover for them like you have on these other designs, but you still get a lot of the same functionality at a much lower price point. So this is a really good way to go if you're on the fence about this style, or if you want to save some money. For 11 bucks, I think this beats out a normal key ring any day for sure. For pocket knives, I know the Opinel might be a deal breaker if you want that really fidgety goodness of a normal pocket knife, or if you want a pocket clip, something like that. A few other alternatives. If you want to go the way of the multi-tool for about the same price, the Victorinox Mini SD Classic, really solid choice, $20. You get a little pair of scissors and a little pocket knife and things in here. I use this when I'm backpacking. It comes in super handy. Really great option for 20 bucks as well if you want to go the multi-tool route without spending any extra money. Another alternative though that has been a long-standing budget favorite for me for pocket knives is the Civivi Elementum. These have a pretty big price range depending on what setup and combo you want, but they range anywhere I think from like $30 to $60. So these are going to be a little bit more, but I think you get a lot for your money with the upgrades. First off, the flick mechanism on these are super satisfying. This one I've had for a few years now, long-standing favorite of mine. Civivi did recently come out with a button lock Elementum as well. Not a huge fan of this colorway here, but they do have some better ones. The button lock is really satisfying as well. Civivi tends to dominate that really budget price point in my opinion, especially in that $20 to $30 range as well. They have the Civivi Badlands Vagabond. That's a really solid choice as well. That's a little bit less than the Elementum, I believe, but the Elementum is a classic and would definitely hold you for years and years and be a really solid choice. For wallets, I know the Carhartt one is not everyone's favorite aesthetic, and that might be too many slots for you. On the opposite end of the extreme, you have the Flowfold Minimalist card holder wallet here, just with one slot. It's made from recycled sailcloth here in the USA. Really solid choice, 15 bucks too, so half the price if you want to save some money. Or if you want to spend a few extra dollars and kind of want something a little more technical, the Wayfinder Flux card holder wallet is a solid choice. Been talking about this thing for years, so I won't get into it too much, but you have 3 slots, really great fabric on here, kind of similar to the Reform wallets I've been talking about a lot lately. That Reform wallet is a new favorite of mine, and this is extremely similar at a bit of a lower price point at $38, so definitely something to check out as well. And for watches, if you're not a fan of the Field Watch, or if you don't want to spend $40, like I said, I did a whole video of EDC watches under $50, so check that out if you never ever did. I tend to favor the digitals a bit more these days, but field watches are always great. The Casio Royale, the AE 1200, this is what got me into all of these like vintage digital Casios. $20 for this, really great favorite, huge cult following around it as well. If you look online or on Reddit, everyone loves the AE 1200, the Royale. I definitely do too. Another option if you want something with a metal band, kind of a classier digital retro look, the Casio A168. This one's also about $20 and I really love the look of it. Really solid watch all around. Can't go wrong with either of these. I'd say if you have a bigger wrist, probably go with the Royale. Smaller wrist, maybe go with this one, but both are great. And these are two of my favorite watches of all time and half the price of the field watch if you want to save some money as well. So that wraps it up for this week's video. I'd love to hear about your EDC loadout down in the comments below. Tell me how wrong I am about any of this stuff. If you have any better recommendations while still being on that good budget, I'd love to hear it. Let's get a good discussion going. Thank you all so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.